Hello students, welcome to the course in operating system. Till now in lecture 8 we have completed up to the differences between process and thread. Now in this lecture, in lecture 9, the very first topic which we have to discuss, that is benefits of threads. So now our topic is benefits of thread. Actually, there are so many benefits we have of multi-threaded programming system, and they are: number one, responsiveness. So responsiveness means it allows a program to execute even if its one part is blocked. So suppose we have a process and here we have so many threads. So here if it is blocked, then we can continuing to execute. Okay, so this is called responsiveness. Number two, a thread takes less time to terminate than the process. So here we can say that the turnaround time is less in case of thread. Okay, so it takes less time to terminate. Number three, it takes less time to switch between two threads within the same process. So switching from one thread to another within the same process takes less time. Number four, it takes less time to create a new thread within the process. So creation of process and creation of thread. So in case of creation of thread, it takes less time. And at last, resource sharing. Actually, as we've seen that in multi-threaded programming model, many threads can share code section, data section, and file section. So it is actually called resource sharing. So this is the another benefit of thread. Okay, so these are the benefits of thread: responsiveness, less time to terminate, less time to switch between two threads, less time to create a new thread within the process, and resource sharing. Okay, so these are all about the benefits of threads. Okay, our next topic, this is actually types of threads. Types of threads. So there are two types of threads basically. Number one, user level threads, and number two, kernel level threads. So these are the two types of threads: user level threads and kernel level threads. Okay, and basically these are two main ways to implement threads. So we can implement a thread either user level or kernel level. So now see, in case of user level threads, what is user level threads actually? So this type of threads loaded in user space. So obviously it is loaded in user space. And are implemented by a thread library at user level. So here obviously thread library also implemented in user level, user space. Okay, and the library provides support for thread creation, scheduling and management with no support from the kernel. So here for creation, management, scheduling, no support from kernel. Because the kernel is unaware of user level threads. Basically here kernel is unaware. Right? And all thread creation and scheduling are done in user space without the need for kernel interaction. So here this is the very important point, that no need with interaction of kernel, right? So all the things are done in the user space. And here the important advantage is user level threads allow each process to have its own scheduling algorithm, and user level threads can run on any operating system, but there are some disadvantages also. User level thread execute when user level thread executes a system call, then not only the particular thread blocked, all of the threads within the process are blocked. Okay, so this is the main disadvantage of user level thread. But now in case of kernel level thread, in kernel level threads, the kernel does total work of thread movement, right? So here the important role actually kernel actually main part in this case. So there is no thread table in each process, and in this case no thread table for each thread. The kernel has a thread table that keeps track of all the threads in system. So here there are a thread table which maintained by the kernel for all threads in the system. And when a thread wants to create a new thread or destroy any existing thread, it makes a kernel call and which takes the action. So obviously here, to create new thread, to terminate a thread, obviously here a system call, that is kernel call, can done on the all the task. Okay, so this is actually kernel level threads. So this is very important question, that write the differences between user level threads and kernel level threads. Okay, so this is all about user level threads and kernel level threads. So this is actually the last topic of thread. So in this thread part, basically we studied concept of thread, single threaded process and multi-threaded process, difference between process and thread, benefits of threads, and user level and kernel level threads. Okay, so this is all about thread. I think these topics are sufficient for in this chapter, that is thread concept. Okay, now we have to move the next part in this module, that is part C. We have seen that in module 2 we have 3 parts, and we have already completed part A and part B. Now we have to move part C, that is process scheduling. So this part is very important, and here we have to solve different numerical problems. Okay, so at first we have to clear the concept, and then we have to solve the numericals. Okay, so this is actually process scheduling. Process scheduling. Actually, process scheduling is the basis of all multi-programmed operating system. So it is the basis of all multi-programmed operating system. Actually, by switching the CPU among processes, the OS can make computer more productive. So using this scheduling concept, actually computer more productive. In a single processor system, only one process can run at a time, and others must have to wait until the CPU is free and can be rescheduled. And when one process has to wait, the operating system takes the CPU away from that process and gives the CPU to another process, and this pattern continues. Okay, so this is the basic point on process scheduling. And now in this particular case we have some questions. Actually, who will do that? So who, where, and when? Actually, the answer of this question actually short-term scheduler. Short-term scheduler with the help of dispatcher. What is short-term scheduler? What is dispatcher? Actually, we have discussed it in one of the previous lecture. Okay, so here actually scheduled is done with the help of short-term scheduler, and where it is actually ready state to running state. Ready state to running state. And when actually when a process moves from, when a process moves from number one running state to terminate, or running state to wait state, or running state to ready state. And number two, when new to ready state, or number three, when wait to ready state. So in these cases we have to perform scheduling. Okay, so here the important role actually short-term scheduler. We have to schedule a process from ready state and assign the CPU for that process, and when we have to perform scheduling, actually when a process go to run state to terminate state, run state to wait state, or running state to ready state, and new state to ready state and wait state to ready state, right? So in this situation we have to perform the scheduling. Okay, so this is the basic point on process scheduling. So here we have ready state, and it is actually ready queue. Suppose here we have three processes, and here we have CPU. Here we have a module called dispatcher, and here we have short-term scheduler. So on the basis of some criteria, short-term scheduler has to schedule a process from ready state or ready queue and put it into CPU for execution. So this is actually process scheduling. Okay, so here the main agent short-term scheduler and the main place from ready queue, and when it will be done, actually when a process goes from running state to terminate state, running state to ready state, running state to wait state, new state to ready state, and wait state to ready state. Okay, so please clear this concept. Now before starting the actual scheduling algorithms, first we have to discuss various times related to process. So here we are going to discuss the various times related to process. So our topic is various times related to process. And in this point, we are going to discuss number one, arrival time. Arrival time. Number two, starting time. Number three, burst time. Number four, completion time or finished time. Or finished time. Number five, waiting time. Number six, turned around time. And number seven, response time. So actually these are all time related. That's why it is various times related to process. Now see one by one. What is arrival time? So whenever any process gets into the ready queue, called arrival time. So that is a time at which it is ready to be executed. Okay, so what is arrival time? So basically it is the arrival time in ready queue. So suppose here we have ready queue and a process, suppose P just arrived in ready queue, suppose at 10 AM. Suppose at 10 AM process P arrived in ready queue. So this 10 AM at exactly the point 10 AM is the arrival time for the process P. So actually arrival time is the not a duration, it is a point. Actually arrival time, it is a point, it is a just time point when a process just arrived in ready queue. Okay, suppose a process arrived in ready queue just 11 a.m. So arrival time of that process is 11 a.m. Okay, so this is the arrival time. Okay, now number 2, this is starting time. Starting time. So basically this is ready queue, and here we have CPU, central processing unit. So basically starting time when a process is going to start its execution. When a process is going to start its execution in CPU, it is called starting time. So it is also a point, not a time interval. Okay, so it is just starting time in CPU. So it is also a time point. It is a point, not time interval. So suppose the arrival time of the process is 10 a.m. and starting time in CPU, suppose 10:20 a.m. right? So we can say that 10:20 a.m. is the starting time of process P. It arrives 10 a.m. and starts 10:20 a.m. Okay, so this is actually starting time. Now point number 3, this is burst time. Actually burst time, it is not the point, it is actually a duration. It is actually duration, time interval. Suppose the starting time is 10:20 and CPU finished its execution, suppose 10:30 a.m. Okay, so the burst time of this process 10:30 minus 10:20. So here the burst time actually 10 minutes. Okay, so actually burst time means how much time spent in CPU. So it is also called the execution time in CPU. But here we have a problem that before running a process, how we can say burst time. Okay, so there are a guess in burst time. Okay, so in case of burst time, we have two types of burst time. One is CPU burst and another is IO burst. So time spent in CPU called CPU burst and time spent in IO is called IO burst. Okay, so burst time actually it is not a point, it is actually a time span, a time interval, a time duration. Okay, now next time, that is completion time. Or finished time, FT. So the time at which a process finishes, it is going to arrive at some time and it is going to finish at some time. So it is also a point actually, right? So in our example, So this is arrival time. Arrival time actually 10 a.m. and here we see that the completion time 10:30 a.m. So this is actually finished time. So this is also a point. Now next one, waiting time. Waiting time. So waiting time also a time duration, not point. Duration, right? So waiting time is the sum of the periods spent waiting in ready queue. So basically this is 10 a.m. and here we have ready queue, and suppose in CPU the starting time actually 10, suppose 10 a.m. So in ready queue the time spent actually 10 minutes, or if it is 10:20 a.m. then the waiting time in ready queue actually 20 minutes, right? So this is actually waiting time. So it is basically a time duration, time spent in ready queue. Okay, so this is waiting time. And in case of waiting time we have a formula. In case of waiting time we have a formula. Basically waiting time is equal to starting time minus arrival time. So to solve the numericals we can use this formula. Waiting time is equal to starting time minus arrival time. Okay, now next one is turned around time. We can call it TAT. So actually the interval from arrival time to completion time, right? So whole lifetime. So this is called the lifetime of a process, turn around time. So this is also a duration. Okay, so basically turnaround time we can write turnaround time is equal to completion time minus arrival time. Time of completion minus time of arrival. Okay, turnaround time is equal to completion time minus arrival time. Actually difference between completion time and arrival time is equal to two things. Actually completion time minus arrival time, that is turnaround time, it is basically waiting time plus burst time. So arrival time and completion time, in middle interval there are waiting time and burst time. So in case of waiting time we can write waiting time is equal to turnaround time minus burst time. So it is the another formula to calculate waiting time. So in case of waiting time we can write starting time minus arrival time, or we can also write turn around time minus burst time. We can also use this formula. Okay, so now the next time, this is called response time. Response time, we can write it RT. So it is also a time duration, not a point. So basically response time RT is equal to fast response minus arrival time, right? So if we solve a numerical, then obviously all the points we have to clear one by one. Okay, so in this particular time related, we have some formula, so please check it. Number one, formula number one, waiting time is equal to basically starting time minus arrival time or turnaround time minus burst time. Number two, in case of turnaround time, we can write it turnaround time is equal to completion time minus arrival time. And in case of response time, it is first response by the CPU minus arrival time. Okay, so these formulas we have to remember to solve the numerical problem. Okay, so these are the different times related to process. Okay, now see in this point, actually sometimes we have CPU burst and IO burst. Okay, so please take a note here. Burst time basically CPU burst and IO burst. Actually time spent in CPU, time spent in CPU, and this is time spent doing IO. And if CPU burst greater than IO burst for a process, then we can call it CPU bound process. CPU bound process. And if CPU burst less than IO burst, then we can call it IO bound process. Okay, so there are two types of process, CPU bound and IO bound in terms of CPU burst and IO burst. Okay, now we have to another important point, that is throughput. Throughput of the system and efficiency of the system. Eta. So what is throughput? Actually number of process executed by the CPU per unit time. Number of process executed per unit time. It is called throughput. So throughput is equal to number of process by time. And in case of efficiency, it is nothing but useful time by total time into 100%. And actually efficiency can never be 100%, but for an ideal case it will be 100%. Okay, efficiency can never be 100%, but in some ideal case the efficiency may be 100%. Okay, so this is all about the basic point on scheduling. Now in next lecture we have to study preemptive and non-preemptive scheduling algorithms, and after that we have to start different scheduling algorithm like FC, FS, shortest job fast, etc. So thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Thank you once again.